When it comes to the animal exhibits, are we upgrading through the campaign, and can we customize them to each animal's specific needs? How does that work?
Yeah. So totally. The early on we looked like, how do we want to do customization? And back in the old days on the PC, you might remember that you had to. I remember well when my finger got tired, like I click and click and click just to make a path, right? So we basically said, hey, let's simplify that and make it much more powerful in many ways. So we're putting, like for example, I put an enclosure down. It automatically builds the roads to the enclosures, or the habitats.
Okay.
But then after that, I can customize to my heart's content. I literally can change everything about it. Like I can change the sidewalk texture, I can change the bushes, the benches, the trash cans, the trees, the lamps, the banners, everything. So it's kind of like, I sometimes say it's the opposite of Minecraft, right? So Minecraft, you go like one block at a time. It takes a while, but it's very empowering, but it takes a while. With ours is we give you something that's beautiful right out of the gate, and then you can customize it to your heart's content. So the zoo will totally be your zoo, totally be your creation, and it very much feels like that. And I just built one last night. And, yep, that's my zoo, and I can name the enclosures, and it's totally my thing. I decked it out. So that's the zoo itself. On the enclosure side, we are basically, in order to make the animals as emotive as possible, we opted to pre-make enclosures and let you customize them once you have them. And that means, for example, to take care of the animals, you can build, I don't know, hundreds of things, hundreds of toys, and baths and shelters, and everything in the kitchen sink that makes like little rubbing posts that the bears rub their backs against and stuff. And based on what animals you put in the enclosure, you can essentially make them happy with adding all these things that are really designed to make those animals in real life also happy.
Good. Yeah, it doesn't sound like we'll be lacking the customization options at all, or getting bored with, well, here's one enclosure and this one looks exactly the same as the next one.
No. There's a bolt-on system where you can basically, you can add to all the buildings. You can add a bunch of objects. You can change every tree out. You can go crazy.
Right. How accessible is this now? My kids are going to want to play, but when my kids go to bed, am I still going to have that challenge for myself to play?
For sure. So it's actually, the old zoo design was great that way as well. So there was a freeform mode. In the freeform mode, essentially the sim is off. You have infinite money. You can basically just, to your heart's content, build your zoo, adopt animals, take care of the animals, and it's all super accessible. And very much like when I have kids come in, like my kids, I have two daughters, when they come in, that's what they oftentimes play, because they just want to be with the animals, quite frankly, and have fun. Then we have the challenge mode, again, also based on the original games. Challenge mode is essentially you can build your zoo, you get challenges all the time. If you only have 10, 15 minutes of time in your life in that particular day, you get a challenge, take it on, and you get an in-game achievement for it. So you absolutely have this. But that's with the sim on, and you have a good reward for what you just did. And then the campaign mode is as hardcore a sim as you're going to find.
Okay.
Go to town. It's getting really challenging, actually. I haven't succeeded with everything yet, and I've been playing.
Okay, so the game's pretty well wrapped up, right? I understand it's going to be an Xbox launch title, an Xbox One launch title?
Yep, we're just in the final. We're fixing bugs. We're adding a few things here and there just to make it better, but there's always opportunity to make games more awesome.
Yes.
But yeah, everything is in. Feeling good about it.
Good.
Beautiful, and it's really fun, actually. We have it we have sort of a beta, like an internal one, and we gave it into that, and feedback has been great.
Okay. Now, you touched a bit on the economy, the financial economy within the game. How are we buying our animals and upgrading certain things within the campaign?
So everything you do, again, like make animals happy is the first thing you need to do. You also need to make your guests happy. So making the animals happy, they have all kinds of needs. Just like in the original games, I think there were 9 needs. I think we have 8 or 9 needs. Basically, there's a social need. There's sort of a habitat need. There's a food need. There's a cleanliness need. So all these needs have to be fulfilled, and then the animals are happy and emote that. And with that, you get essentially money. via the guests that are streaming into your zoo, and they give you donations. Same is true for guests. There's concession stands, and they can buy balloons and all kinds of things. And they also give you essentially money for that. That money that you stick into the economy, either upgrade those buildings, upgrade your enclosures, build new enclosures, and so there's a huge economy. There's also a research system in the zoo where you basically get completely new things like breeding, for example. You need to research first and then upgrade systems. You can hire zookeepers and researchers and entertainers. All the things that you would expect in a sim like that are present.
Okay. Also, I understand Microsoft is helping out within the community challenges as well as far as releasing animals into the wild. Can you talk about that a little bit?
It's my favorite feature. So, I mean, what I sometimes say is, like, I've been, I started back at Origin System in the early 90s, and so I've been doing this for 20 years. It's the best feature I've ever been involved in, because we as a game organization and as people who really care about games, we finally found a way to give something back to the real world. And what we do is we've reached out to a number of conservation efforts across the world. Mm-hmm. And, for example, there's a big cat initiative, there's an African forest animal initiative, those sorts of things. And we're basically very aware now how can we really affect the real world by essentially giving them money. And what we are planning on doing is engage our community with that. For example, like those of us who follow this, I think it was maybe now 2 or 3 weeks ago that there's near Nairobi. There's a national park in Kenya, and it's one of the most highly guarded, protected parks in Africa. And still, poachers went in and shot a rhino and took its horn. Right, what people are doing right now is crazy. And so we read that right now. We've been reading it for years because actually the project lead and I both have biology degrees, so we actually really care about these things. Mm-hmm. And we're like, it breaks your heart, right, when you hear this stuff. And what we're going to do is we're going to essentially send messages to the community and say, did you hear about this? And we obviously have some fun. So I think we'll have 3 or so. We haven't decided exactly, but say we have 3 efforts that we think are relevant to the real world right now, something that happened recently that we think is worth investing in. And then the vision is to let the community vote. What do we want to do? And once we selected something, say, release a rhino to the real wild, we'll set ourselves a challenge as a community. It's very much like an MMO in some ways. Right. And say, you know what, let's release 1,000 rhinos to the real world, to our virtual world. So we all rally together, and if you know how the game works, you have to have the right male and female, and then you have to be happy, and then they start breeding, and then that animal grows up, and then you ultimately release it to the wild. It's just a game loop. Once that number has been achieved, then Microsoft releases the funds, and we actually do something in the real world and release a rhino. And I couldn't be more proud that we're doing that.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's awesome to hear about. Now, when the Xbox One launches and Zoo Tycoon launches as well, it's also launching for the 360. Mm-hmm. What are the differences between the Xbox One version and the Xbox 360 version?
Well, so Xbox One is next gen.
Yeah, I know.
tons of memory. The GPU is awesome, and So basically, what I always say is on Connectimals, we actually in Connectimals, the one tiger that smiled at you was from a rendering perspective as much as the entire Forza game loop. So if that tells you something, it was pretty expensive, but the fill rate was just what it is. And what on the Xbox One, what we can do is we can pretty much have infinite amount of those guys. Infinite animals with awesome fur and just render to your heart's content, essentially. So that's awesome. We also have more memory, so we can store more larger zoos, and we have more disk space, so we can have more, flat out. And then, obviously, the affordances of Kinect HD, significant upgrade to what Kinect was, so that's awesome. Then we have the cloud, and we have much more of specifically for this type of game, we have much more assurance now that people will actually be online. So that's why we are very confident that the community will engage and will grow. And so based on all those things, we basically said, look, let's make Kinect exclusive for Xbox One. The community, we're banking on Xbox One, so we're going over into live via the Xbox One community. And then we have all the larger zoos, slightly longer campaign, more animals, those types of things. On the 360, if you played any of the games we've made in the last 3 years, it's a beautiful game. It absolutely is. It's sucking every piece of GPU and CPU out of the 360 as possible. That said, you can't do everything, so we had to prioritize a few things. You can't have all the animals. We know we're in the 50s. We don't know exactly yet how many we can actually fit on disk, quite frankly. And then basically the graphics have to take. They're living in the current gen. How about that? But it's at the very top end of the current gen. So we always say it's great on Xbox 360 and it's awesome on Xbox One.
That's perfect. Well, George, I want to thank you very much for your time. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we leave?
Get the conservation message out. I think the game's awesome. Honestly, when you finish a game and when you play it every day, it's super fun to play it. But I think the fact that we, as a community of gamers, reach out to the real world and do something positive, I think is great. Because we get so much grief, sometimes about shooters, this, that, or the other, right? And I think we're exactly on the other side.
Yeah, very true, very true. All right, George, thank you once again.
Well, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye.
Well, guys, that is it. Hopefully you enjoyed the interview. A big thanks to George and Kara as well for helping. I am Cutter28 with 4 Next Level Gamers, and I'll catch you in the next level. I'm out.